160 days to college football. 160 days, 14 hours and 6 minutes and counting until college football. We hope. Welcome in, everyone. MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football. On a Saturday night late, Sunday morning early. It's about 12:30 Eastern time. So glad you could join us. I will be taking your calls, and I don't want to sit right in front of the countdown clock, do I? I'm going to have to change up my set. Actually have something on order right now that will be arriving in the next few days for the set. That's exciting, isn't it? So the number here is 860-325-3687, the voice of college football. We come your way each and every day with discussion, debate, and analysis. Of course we do. We've also announced as of the other day that we are dedicating live streams, call-in shows, Sunday night at 10 o'clock Eastern time during the off season. Also Friday at noon Eastern time. So please check out those shows. Also, keep in mind that I will continue to jump on here with a live stream on a regular basis, impromptu, just similar to what I did here. So if you are not locked in on the subscription and the notifications, then please do so, and then you will get the notification for a situation like tonight. But we are guaranteeing that aside from any work schedule changes or personal life situations, that I will be live every Sunday night at 10 o'clock Eastern time and Friday at noon Eastern time during the off season. I am committing to that. Also, of course, our Florida State, Ohio State, and Miami shows each and every week. Florida State is a Tuesday night at 7 o'clock Eastern time. Ohio State and Miami have to float, unfortunately. Would love to have a designated time. But of course, again, work schedules, personal life schedules prohibit us from being able to nail down a specific time for Ohio State and Miami. Our last two shows were just this past Friday. I do have a text message that I need to get to. Also, I want to offer this up, college football fans, as a topic for tonight. You will see bright and early on Sunday morning that I am releasing the start of my series on schedule previews and record projections for this season. Keep in mind that it's awfully easy when looking at teams for next season to be lulled into the belief that they're the same team that they were last season. That a 9-3 team's going to be roughly 8-4, 9-3 again this year. That a 6-6 team's going to be, they'll be 6-6. They may win 7 this year, but it's easy to just believe that teams are going to continue to be the same team over and over and over and over, because the elite teams are the elite teams. The Ohio States, Clemson's, Alabama's, LSU's, etc. Then you've got the Notre Dames and the Michigans and the Penn States that are the second tier, and they're going to continue to be the second tier. Then you've got that mid-level 7-8 win program like a Kansas State, Oklahoma State, Stanford up until last year. North Carolina State typically wins 7 or 8 games. Boston College, a number of teams that we could mention. And that those programs and those teams will continue just to play at the same level that they always do. But it might surprise you, as it has me, in looking at teams from year to year, that the increase in wins, significant number of wins, or decrease in wins from year to year is more prevalent than what at least I thought. So, for example, in the Big Ten last year, how many teams do you think either increased or decreased their win total from 2018 to 2019 by at least 3 games? And that's significant when you think about it. a team that was 5-7 going to 8-4, or a team that was 5-7 going to 2-10, or a team that was 9-3 dropping to 6-6. A 3-game difference from one season to the next in a 12-game season is significant. Out of 14 teams in the Big Ten, how many do you think either increased or decreased their win total by 3 games, at least 3 games, from 2018 to 2019? And I'll get to the comments section because you can mull that over, or you can possibly try to add it up. Kyle, thanks so much for joining us. Kyle definitely is a subscriber. I can just about guarantee that. And he's locked in on the notifications because I let everybody know about 7 or 8 hours ago that I'd be coming on live late after I was done with work. And I was guesstimating that I'd come on about 1 o'clock Eastern time. And here I am. So Kyle, it's good to see you. Kyle will not let go of the vice presidential campaign for 2020, regardless of what's going on in our nation right now, regardless of the chaos out there. 2020 is definitely a possibility for our VP nomination. NCIS Fanatic 21 and live from Mark Rogers' house, it's Mark Rogers TV Live. And this is different from every other live stream we do. How, NCIS Fanatic 21? And again, tonight I will make the prediction that the longest running subscriber of Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, is NCIS Fanatic 21. Good to see you. Yes, we've got faith. Yes, we do, Kyle. We have faith, and we the key is not only to have faith. So to have faith is a good thing. It's a great thing. But to have faith placed in the right place, you have to place your faith in the right person or the right place. That's key. That is also key. I was on the Uncle Lou show the other day. That must have been on Friday morning. Uncle Lou asked me to come on. Ryan, good to see you. Ryan Parker. I might be wrong on this, but I believe this is the first time that I've seen Ryan's handle in any of the comments. So you know what I need to do here. Ryan, welcome to Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Would love to know who you root for and how long you've been watching. And again, for those people filtering in, I want to remind you whether this is you watching live or once we post the video for those people that watch afterwards, which is typically a lot more people than watch live. Who in 2020, we have hope 160 days away from college football. We have hope that we will have a college football season and would love to know from you. Here's our question of the night. Who are going to be the teams that are going to increase the most in wins or decrease the most in wins from 2019 to 2020? And I will get you the answer to my question in just a second. Let's go for 2 hours again. Swampy McGee, good to see you. Mark Rogers TV College Football 2020. Mark Rogers TV College Football forever. We hope so. We hope so. It's going well, Ballard. Good to talk to you for the first time the other night. Ballard, an aspiring sportscaster. Ballard, we should talk sometime. I was a sportscaster from, I shouldn't even spit out the dates. It's going to date me. Way back in 1991 to 2000. Maybe the Ohio State live stream could get a more specific time for next couple of weeks with everyone at home right now. That's possible. That is possible. Canes fan Duke, it's good to see you. Love the show. Love the channel. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. The NFL draft is coming up, I believe, the last weekend of April. We need to get on it, and we will. Released in the next few days is going to be the launching of my series in which I look at schedule previews and record projections. We're starting in the Big Ten, at the bottom of the Big Ten. Valor, thank you so much for the compliment on the Miami show yesterday. If anybody has yet to see it, we had our Ohio State and Miami live streams last night. All right, so the answer to our question in the Big Ten in particular, and then I will get you the call-in number, is that from 2018 to 2019, out of 14 teams in the Big Ten, take this in, there were 5 teams in the Big Ten from 2018 to 2019 that either increased by at least 3 wins or decreased by 3 wins. They would be Minnesota, and I'm talking regular season. Chris, I'll get you the number in just a second. They would be Minnesota going from 6-6 in the regular season of 2018 to 10-2. Illinois went from 2-10, or I believe 3-9, to 6-6 last year. Wisconsin was 7-5 in 2018. They went to 10-2 regular season, 3-game improvement. The other team was Indiana, missed postseason play in 2018 at 5-7, increased to 8-4. That's 4 teams in the Big Ten that increased their win totals by at least 3 games. And then on the downside, Northwestern went from 8-4 regular season in 2018 to 3-9. 5 teams out of 14, that's more than a third of the conference, either increased or decreased their win total by at least 3 games. I think that's significant. And so what I'm asking you tonight is for us to find the teams in 2020 that will either increase or decrease their win total, not just in the Big Ten, across the country by at least 3 games. Out of 130 teams in FBS, I am telling you, and about 75 in the Power 5, there are going to be at least 30% of those teams, just about 30% of those teams are going to have a big increase or decrease in wins. Subscribe. If you're on here right now, we've got 19 on here right now. We're going to have thousands watch the video eventually. Please subscribe to Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. If you think I don't need to subscribe, I'll still check out the channel from time to time and watch the videos. Please just subscribe. It helps on so many levels. Remind everyone that the Super Chat is on, and that's another way you can contribute to the channel. Here's the call-in number. There it is, 860-325-3687. I was checking out this article on ESPN.com's college football page that the SEC has not yet given up on spring practice. It reads, as colleges around the country continue to plot their coronavirus strategies, SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey reiterated Wednesday that those spring football games are canceled, spring practice is not yet. Although Sankey is not overly optimistic that spring practice can be rescued from postponement by the SEC's self-imposed April 16th evaluation date, it has yet to be officially ruled out. So on April 16th, the SEC is going to reevaluate the situation and possibly, let's see, we are just about 3 weeks away from April 16th. So we've got 3 weeks to salvage this according to the SEC's timeline. They are going to reevaluate the coronavirus situation on April 16th and then make a determination on whether any spring practice can be salvaged. Of course, the safety of us all, and specifically the student athletes in this case, is most important. But if we can save spring football, that would be amazing. The SEC spring meetings are still scheduled for May 25th through the 29th in Destin, Florida. The conference's annual Media Days event to be held in July also is on track for now. And if I was going to take a poll of all of you, I'm sure it would be a wide range of estimations on how long this is going to go on. I just looked at the numbers tonight. Unfortunately, we have surpassed 300 dead in the United States because of this horrible virus. On one hand, you could look at that versus what, and I don't think this is necessarily something that is taken into account on a regular basis, but most people view the flu as just a nuisance, something that most people get and they have to suffer through for a week or 10 days, and it's horrible. It feels horrible, but you get through it. But let's all understand that the flu typically kills about 30,000 people in this country every year. 30,000 people. So 300 killed by this virus. Of course, unfortunately, we are sure that that number is going to continue to go up. Even if we have reached a point in which we're getting a handle on this, the numbers are going to continue to go up because more people are being tested. There's been about 200,000 people tested at this point. I am going to fill the role of James Scott right now and let you know that the Amazon link is in the description section of any of the videos. And if you shop at Amazon, and I understand most of us are doing much less shopping, and certain expenditures right now are obviously limited because of the financial situation in the country. But if you do shop on Amazon, please use the link that we provide. All right. Hey, it's Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
I'm Justin.
Hey, Justin. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing just fine. What's on your mind?
You read a number, like how many people had died from the coronavirus?
In the United States, the number I saw tonight was 323.
300 people.
Yes.
Oh, wow. Because, like, I was looking up through the CDC this year, like, what the flu has caused. And the flu this year in America alone has caused 20,000 deaths.
Mm-hmm. It's usually a little bit more than that.
Right. And we're hysterical about 300 deaths.
That's because of the spread of this. So I understand your point, and I've made the same statement to people that I don't think we realize as normal Americans who are unaffected by the flu, or typically somebody we know or a number of people we know every winter gets the flu, but they work through it, they suffer through it for a week to 10 days, and it's fine and they get better. We don't realize how many people die of the flu in this country every year. It's about 30,000 on average. But we don't know where this is going to go.
And
we don't have a handle on this.
300 deaths. We're worried about 300 deaths
because we don't have a cure. That's what people are concerned about, and we don't. And this is spreading.
Do we have a cure for the flu?
To a certain extent, it depends on the person.
No, we have a cure for a strain of the flu, but we will never have a cure for every flu.
When I say the cure, it's similar to the common cold. That's kind of the joke. There's no cure for the common cold, and that's right. The body heals itself of the common cold. We don't really have a cure for it, and it's the same thing with the flu. All kinds of flus, and when I make these comments and statements, I am no expert in any of this. I'm a college football guy.
Hear me out.
Yep.
Hear me out. Hear me out. So you have the flu that regularly, without break, causes, let's say, 30,000 deaths.
Yeah.
All right? Yearly. But this new virus comes along that has, to this point, caused, what did you say, like 300?
300 deaths.
300 nationwide.
Yeah.
For this year alone. It's a pandemic. And we need to focus and harness all resources on 300 deaths when the flu is causing literally 100 times that yearly. If you don't understand my disconnect, I need to just go ahead and, hang up. But that is dumb shit to me.
I understand the math, but you also need to understand the math in regards to exponentially how it's growing per day. So that 300 was like 30 a week ago. So we don't know where that number is going to go, because those numbers are going up every day exponentially. At this point, hopefully they're going to level off soon, but they're taking off right now exponentially. The numbers are going up every day.
Okay, well, I mean, what? At that point that you're saying, okay, the virus is more contagious, that's your only defense of, like, embedding this propaganda into society is like, oh, it's more contagious. Is that what the story becomes now?
Well, the story for me doesn't become anything except for how it's impacting people's lives. I run a college football channel. We talk college football here, but obviously this is a news story that's impacting everyone's lives. Hopefully not because anybody that I'm talking to has become sick.
ESPN is offline. ESPN doesn't have anything to. So I feel like it's perfectly effective to talk about the coronavirus when ESPN is just regurgitating, ESPN history and classics.
Well, that's because nobody's playing sports.
Why can't we talk about the virus?
So your call is in order to let us all know that this is being overhyped and overplayed.
No, you said it yourself. How many people has the coronavirus killed this season now, today?
In the United States? In the United States?
Yes.
A little over 300.
Okay, that's less than 1% of the flu this year in the United States. That's less than 1% of who have died this year.
I know the math. I can do the math, but
okay,
this hasn't run its course yet, for one thing.
Am I waiting for the one thing, or what? The flu is always the flu. It's always the flu season. What are you talking about?
Okay, you are calling the wrong channel to argue about the coronavirus. This is not the place to be arguing about the coronavirus. So what we do here,
I just want my sports back.
Absolutely, Justin. Do you watch me on a regular basis, or did you just stumble upon
No, I don't.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm quarantined.
Okay, I'm a college football guy. We run a college football channel. That's what we talk about all the time. It's just college football.
Do you play college football?
Did I play college football? No.
So how are you a college football guy?
I'm a college football analyst. I've worked in the sports industry, television industry at the highest levels for 28 years.
Okay. All right. Well, when you realize that the coronavirus has killed 300 people in this country, and the flu has killed 100 times over that, then, you know, we might be on the same page.
I'm the one who gave you those numbers.
I knew those numbers. I mean, come on.
Okay.
I know all those numbers.
All right. You knew the numbers. All right, Justin, this is what I've got to tell you. If you enjoy college football to any degree, I think you found yourself a home. I'd love for you to check out our videos. We got live streams going all week if you love college football.
Oh, no.
But if you don't like college football,
fucking advertisement.
fine. Okay. I knew it was headed a wrong way, and I should have cut off old Justin a long time ago. But that's what we get. And there we go. So Kyle has informed everyone of what the number is, but we don't have any sane people calling right now. So we'll see. Hopefully it's not one of those nights like we've had before where we've unfortunately had to cut some people off at some point because it just gets out of hand. MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mark, it's Michael Hogue. How you doing, sir?
Hey, Mike. Michael, how you doing tonight? It's nice to hear a familiar voice.
Been balancing the health issue. Do what?
It's nice to hear a familiar voice.
Yeah, I've been balancing the health issues, but no, I don't have the coronavirus. Anyway, got a couple questions with you. I know Rondell Moore is coming back in. There's decent running backs, I think, coming in for Purdue and stuff this year with wide receivers. But with spring practice and stuff kind of postponed right now until fall camp and stuff, who do you think the starting quarterback will be for Purdue in August, O'Connell or Plummer? I know how you get blessed to your reply. Thanks, Mark.
Well, Plummer's the guy that's got the experience, so I would think that he's got the heads up on the job. But I haven't looked into the Purdue quarterback situation. But yeah, Plummer's got the experience, and he was a pretty hot prospect coming out of high school. That's about where I stand in the Purdue quarterback situation as it stands right now. All right, let's see what else we've got going right here. My question of the night, again, is going to be in looking specifically at the Big Ten last year in comparison to 2018. We had 5 teams out of 14 that either increased or decreased their win total by at least 3 games. Want to know who those teams are going to be, not just in the Big Ten, but nationally. Who are the teams that are going to take off this year? Who are the teams that are going to plummet this year? And we should probably look at the standings to give ourselves an idea of who that might be. So I'm looking at the 2019 college football standings. Let's go through the Power 5 first. Louisville obviously took off last year. So there's a team in the ACC that went from 2-10 to 7-5. 5-game improvement for Louisville last year. Syracuse went from 9-3 in 2018 to 5-7 last year. So a big downer from Syracuse. I could see that coming. North Carolina State went from 9-3 in the regular season in 2018 to 4-8 last year. Yes, Wayne. So Wayne, to let you know, on a Saturday night, typically, unfortunately, since my work schedule changed back in November, I would still be up right now, typically working at a job right now. So no, it has nothing to do with whether I can sleep or not sleep. But this is my life. This is unfortunately my life. Yes, 2018 to 2019. So those are the 3 big movers in the ACC. We also, of course, had North Carolina that went 2-10 in 2018. Mac Brown steps in, Sam Howell quarterback. Boom, 6-6 in the regular season last year. And Georgia Tech went from 6-6 to 3-9. So again, not just in the Big Ten, but in the ACC, we've got all these teams that are making moves year to year. That's 5 teams in the ACC, right? Georgia Tech, North Carolina, Syracuse, and Louisville, and North Carolina State. That's 5 teams out of the 14 in the ACC. They've either increased or decreased by at least 3 games. 5 teams in the Big Ten, 5 teams in the ACC. So we got to find the teams, and it's about a third of America, college football, that are going to either increase or decrease by 3 wins from last season to this season. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mark, it's McD Sports 4. How are you doing?
Hey, McD, how are you?
Pretty good. I saw they had some interesting calls
Yeah,
earlier
unfortunately.
in the show. So I'm
That's,
going to try to give you a bit of a normal call.
yeah, please give it to me. Did you hear our question of the night?
Yeah, I heard your question. Who's going to have the most approved wins and the most approved losses? I'll tell you guys the most approved wins. The University of Maryland, I think they're approved from 3 wins to at least probably 7.
That's a shocker.
That's a +4. I had to say it, but I really do think we could go from 3 to 7. Honestly, I really do. I think year 2 under Mike Lockley. I know you're not a big fan of his. I really think the team's going to improve. I really think the team's going to improve.
My Maryland schedule preview is going to be released, I believe, tomorrow, McD. So I would appreciate if you would give that a look and see what I've got there.
I'm going to probably have more comments than George on that.
Okay, McD. I'm pulling up the schedule right now. Give me your 7 wins here. You got the schedule in front of you?
Yeah, give me like 20 seconds to get that
Sure.
schedule up.
Let's get the schedule up. It begins, of course, with Towson, then a game against Northern Illinois.
Uh-huh. Those are 2 wins right there. I
So
have
there's
it right
2
in
wins.
front of me now.
Okay.
I think we win on the road at West Virginia week 3.
All right. I'll give that one to you.
I think we lose. Then we have our off week. I think we lose to Minnesota.
I know that hurts you to say that.
This is what I think. I think we're going to beat either Minnesota or Wisconsin. I think the team will beat Wisconsin primarily because I think Minnesota is going to be better than Wisconsin in 2020.
Okay, so between Minnesota and Wisconsin, you're going to win one of those games. Boy, that's a heavy lift. But okay, all right, there's 4.
Okay? We'll lose on the road against Indiana.
Okay.
We'll go on the road to beat Northwestern.
Okay, there's 5.
Rutgers at home is 6.
Okay.
Michigan State at home is 7.
Okay. That's the ceiling, though. That is the ceiling. If that happens, McD, I won't be shocked because I think what you just laid out is reasonable. It's optimistic, but it's reasonable. You beating either Minnesota or Wisconsin, you beating Michigan State, and then also you're winning on the road against Northwestern. You're also beating West Virginia on the road. I'm more in the 4-win category.
I think they'll be ready to play West Virginia. I don't think that. As I told you during my last call, that West Virginia game is going to be, I think, a very close game either way. I think those teams are going to be ready to play. I just think Maryland's the better team. I don't want to really get into my trash talk in West Virginia because, trust me, it will be coming. But I think the only good thing going for West Virginia right now is their head coach, Neil Brown. And I just really do not see West Virginia being that good in 2020.
Oh, I don't think they're going to be good either. But I think Maryland's not that good either. So that's going to be a toss-up game. I consider West Virginia a toss-up game.
Okay.
I consider the Northwestern game on the road a toss-up.
I expect us to be at least Northwestern, Rutgers, and Michigan State this year.
You'll beat Rutgers, of course. Between Northwestern and Michigan State, it would be an accomplishment for me if you beat one of them.
I think I expect us to beat both of them.
You've never beaten Michigan State since you joined the Big Ten. So we're looking at, I think that came in 2014. So in 6 years, you're 0-6 against Michigan State, correct?
Correct, but I don't care.
Well, I know you're going to beat them someday, but I'm just pointing it out that that's pretty aggressive.
I could care less about what's happened in the past 6 years. I mean, we never beat Ohio State before, and I could care less. I mean, and one other quick thing. I don't expect us to beat Ohio State, but I just want to remind any Ohio State fans basically what happened last time Ohio State went to College Park.
Sure.
I just want to remind them last time it happened.
Yeah.
So don't think that can happen again. That's what I think what might happen against Wisconsin, and I'm hoping we finish the job. I think we're going to sneak up on somebody this year, and I'll come out and say this right now. I think Michigan is going to not win as many games. I think Michigan State is going to be really bad this year, and I think we're going to sneak up on somebody this year. If we can sneak up, even if we go 5-7, let's say, if we can sneak up on somebody and get to 5-7, I won't be that mad. I just want to make a bowl game more than anything.
Sure, you want to make a bowl game, and that's doable. I would bet against it right now. I'm not making my final predictions, but I would bet against it right now. But it's possible. I wouldn't say that you're crazy. I told you a number of times last offseason. At this time last year, McD, if you remember, you were throwing 8 and 9 wins at me, and I was telling you how crazy you were.
Yeah, I was throwing 8 wins at you, but I mean, I think 8-4 is like the ceiling for this team. We'll probably end up going 5-7 or 6-6. I'm holding out for 7-5 though. But I just want to make a bowl game more than anything. I mean, even if it's 5-7 and we get one this spot because of their academics, which Mara does have really good academics, by the way. But even if it's that, I'll take it at this point. I mean, I do believe in Mike Locksley. I think he's a great recruiter. I know you're not high on him, as I said earlier. But the reason why he was higher was because he can recruit the DMV, and he proved that this past recruiting cycle. So I hope everything really works out for my Terps. A few other teams that, to answer your question, that I think win a lot more games than they did last season. Oklahoma State is a team that I'm very high on in 2020. I think they could possibly get to the Big 12 championship game at 10-11 wins. Chuba Hubbard, I really think is a very good running back, and I never count Mike Gundy. Another team I think could win a lot more games than they did last year. I think Ole Miss is a team that should be considered. I think they can win 7-8 games as well in Lane Kiffin's first year, because I think I think I'll come out and say this right now. That Ole Miss, I think Ole Miss is going to sneak up on a team this year. Either Auburn, Alabama, LSU, A&M. They almost beat A&M last year, and they have Florida on the schedule as well at home. I'll throw them in there as well. I think they're sneaking up on somebody this year in the SEC. I think they'll pull off a big-time upset. So those are 2 teams I think of. Teams that I think are going to lose a lot more games than they did last year. I mean, it's kind of tough if you think about it, but I don't think I really don't think Baylor's going to be back where they were last year at 10-11 wins. I still think they'll make a bowl game, but it'll be like 7-5, more likely than not. I think Washington State's going to be a dumpster fire. I want to say they went 6-7 last year.
Yes.
Maybe 7-6. I think they only win 3-4 games, honestly. Washington State is another one. I'm trying to think of a few other teams, possibly.
Michigan, I think, I really think Michigan, this might be crazy. You might call me crazy for this, but I think Michigan can go 7-5.
I've done that in the past, McD. I've called you crazy.
I know that's kind of a crazy thing, but if you look at that schedule, they have a very tough stretch there in the middle. It's like Minnesota. I know Michigan. Like, I'll pull it up right now.
They've got Wisconsin.
They got Wisconsin that basically ran them out the building last year. Penn State. I mean, I'll give them credit. Last year they were pretty close to Penn State. So that's probably going to be a close game either way. But Minnesota, they got Washington on the road, which is going to be a tough game in week 1. I think Ohio State, obviously. Indiana, I know they ran away with that in the second half last year, but Indiana, they're not a bad team. Purdue, I think, is going to be better this year. They were pretty banged up last year. Even my Maryland Terps, I think, and Michigan fans don't like when I say this, but the Maryland Terps did outplay Michigan in that first half last year, despite the score. In that first half last year, outside of 2 special team plays, Maryland outplayed them. So, I mean, we'll kind of throw them in the conversation. Even Michigan State, I'll throw in there, and I think they're going to be sent off. But I really think Michigan could be looking at 7-5. And I do want to make a quick comment about Jim Harbaugh, real quick. And this is a good comment about him. It's not a bad comment. Due to the since there's no sports on, I've been watching a lot of games from previous years, like classics. I've watched several Michigan Ohio State games, and Jim Harbaugh. I know that's kind of what Michigan fans want. They just want to be Ohio State. The game plan has been very good for Michigan. Like, the game plan going into the game has been a very good game plan. The problem is Michigan just does not have the horses and the depth in that third and fourth quarter. That's the problem with Michigan. It's not, and some of that is recruiting on Jim Harbaugh. Which, by the way, he did not recruit a 5-star this past recruiting cycle, but the Maryland Terps did. Just had to throw that in there. But it's really, I mean, the game plan is perfect. It's just that they just do not have the depth to go ahead and hang with Ohio State in the second half. I don't think it's the game planning at all, though, from watching those games. What do you think about that?
Well, I think that Michigan is one of the 10 to 15 most talented teams in the country and has been under Harbaugh, and that's basically what he's recruited, and the talent pretty much reflects that, and the season results reflect that. They go 9-3 or 10-2 just about every year. I think that Ohio State has one of maybe the most talented team, but generally the 3 or 4 most talented teams in the country. Now, the thing that's disturbing, or should be disturbing for a Michigan fan, is that Michigan is generally about where Penn State is in regards to its roster talent. Penn State competes with Ohio State every year. Even this last year when Ohio State was dominating everybody, Penn State gave them a game. Penn State gave them a nail-biter the 2 previous seasons, like outplayed them. Michigan never plays Ohio State like that. They did in 2016, so I shouldn't say never. But Michigan not only has a talent disparity against Ohio State, but they just don't show up for whatever reason. Maybe they play too tight. I can't imagine they don't show up. They want to win that game desperately. I think they play too tight. And the game plan is also the way their style of defense has not matched up well against Ohio State. They have relied on man-to-man coverage, and they have just gotten burned and shredded in the secondary.
I disagree with that last point, only because I don't think they have enough depth in the defense, especially the secondary.
Well, I didn't say that they did. No, I didn't say that they did. I just said that their their approach and their scheme defensively has magnified that issue.
Okay. I mean, you could be right in that, but the past 2 years when they got blown out by Ohio State, the halftime scores were 24-19 and 28-16, and that 28-16 was a last-second touchdown by Ohio State. So they basically what I'm trying to say is they're in those games in the first half. It's just when the third and fourth quarter comes around, especially the third quarter, I just don't think they have the depth to go up against Ohio State. Like Ohio State, they're at least too deep at every position. I would like to think Michigan is as well, but maybe they're too deep, but maybe not as talented. Maybe the second string isn't as talented as Ohio State, and you need a talented second string to beat Ohio State. So I don't really blame Jim Harbaugh that much for not being Ohio State, because I just think Ohio State's a very good team. But I do think some of it is recruiting. So that's just my 2 cents on just watching the games the past few years, because I'm bored out of my mind sitting in my house. But I was just bring up that point. I've been over the 16 minutes mark. I don't want to waste any more of your time. Thanks for taking my call, and go Terps. We're going to have the most improved wins in 2020.
Thanks, McD. I was going to call him on the Jim Harbaugh comment that it's not Jim Harbaugh's fault because they don't have enough talent. That's the one concession that a college football coach can't make. He can't, like the NFL coach, point at the front office and say, they didn't give me enough talent. He's responsible for bringing in the talent. And Jim Harbaugh's got a very difficult assignment competing against that juggernaut every year, where if he took that program to just about any other division in college football, imagine if they didn't have to go up against Ohio State. Okay, they could go to the ACC Atlantic and have to take on Clemson. They would go to the SEC Western Division and have to face Alabama and now LSU. Sure, there's a few exceptions out there, but just about any other division in college football, Michigan could show up to either Pac-12 division or even the Big 12, I think, and certainly the ACC Coastal. Maybe not right now at the SEC East, but the SEC East when Jim Harbaugh showed up was definitely down, with Missouri winning division championships in 2013 and 2014, and Florida after that with Treon Harris at quarterback. Michigan could have done well there, but they've got to contend with Ohio State, and that's their lot in life. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mark, it's Michael again. I see you going through a couple schedules, and I just wanted to, I got Purdue's schedule pulled up, and I didn't know if you have it
let's
pulled
take
up.
a look at it. Absolutely.
All right. Whenever you're ready.
I am ready.
Okay, September 5th at Nebraska. I think that's going to be a win, but it's going to be a close game.
Absolutely, it's going to be a close game. They've had some great games with Nebraska, as you well know, in recent years. And Michael, I will certainly get you a Purdue preview here before the season starts. So we're gonna run through the personnel and give it a good go on a very in-depth Purdue preview. But I don't have a whole lot for you right now. But I'll give you even a percentage odds chance on winning these games. So at Nebraska, I'm going to give the slight edge to Nebraska at home, but very slight. I'll say you got a 45% chance of winning that game.
All right. Home versus Memphis.
I love this matchup, by the way. If I do a video that's going to take in the top or the under-the-radar non-conference games, the best under-the-radar non-conference games, this is going to be one of them. As soon as I saw this on the schedule, I got excited about this matchup. Against Memphis at home, I'm going to say that Purdue's got about a 35 or 40% chance of winning that game.
So you see Purdue starting off 0-2. All right.
Well,
the following week,
not necessarily, but go ahead. Sure.
No, the following week is Air Force, which I'm concerned because of the triple option.
Yeah, that's a rough game as well. Air Force beat Washington State in a bowl game last year. They finished 11-2. They're a really good team. Yeah, Purdue. That's a they're a slight favorite at home in that one. I'll give them a 55% chance of winning.
All right, then they go to Chestnut Hill, Boston College.
Boston College has some issues. Their defense has deteriorated in recent years. They don't have their quarterback back, Anthony Brown. Purdue is going to be a slight pick of mine right now to win that game at Boston College.
Okay, then they got the bye week, and then they play Rutgers.
They beat Rutgers, no question about that. They got Rutgers at home. They better win that game to go to 3-2.
All right, then they got two tough games back to back at Illinois, at Michigan. Which one do you see them splitting?
Yeah, they'll probably split those two games, and most likely they win against Illinois and lose to Michigan. But I think they've got a puncher's chance at Michigan. I don't count that as a loss for sure. As you know, this team took on way too many injuries last year, and if they could just stay healthy, they're much better than a 4-8 team that they showed us last year.
All right, then they got Northwestern.
So they're 4-3. They got Northwestern at home. That's not I got to tell you, I just went through the entire Big Ten, Michael, and I'm going to be starting to post my schedule previews tomorrow. And I've already done Purdue, and I had them with more toss-up games than any team in the Big Ten. So anyway, Northwestern's another toss-up, but they're going to be a slight favorite. I'll give them a 60 to 65% chance of winning that game to go to, 5-3.
Yeah, then they go to Minnesota, which I got as a loss.
They'll probably lose. Let's not overplay Minnesota. They had one really good season in which they had a soft schedule, especially out of conference. So I know people are going to be really high on Minnesota, and I believe in PJ Fleck, but let's not just consider them to be some powerhouse all of a sudden. That's a winnable game, but they'll most likely lose. But I give them a 40% chance of winning that game. So most likely they're going to be 5-4.
And then they got Wisconsin, which I had them losing that game too.
Most likely, but it's at home. But they go to 5-5.
And then they wrap up the season with Iowa, and then down to Bloomington for the bucket game, which I had them winning those two games. I had them. Sure. I had Purdue around 8-4.
Oh, you've got them at 8-4. I've got them at 6-6 based on what we just ran through.
All right, my losses. I had them was Michigan, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and maybe either the Nebraska game or maybe the Air Force game.
No, I get it. I think 8-4 is a ceiling, but it's doable. I would not be shocked if Purdue went 8-4. I think that's a bit of a stretch. That's a tough non-conference schedule.
Mm-hmm.
So as you well know, Michael, typically your non-conference schedule is going to be something like where in recent years you've played somebody tough like a TCU, but then the other two games were like a MAC school and an FCS school, or maybe two MAC schools. But to take on Boston College on the road, and when I say that they should win at Boston College, I don't mean that that's any type of certainty. That's going to be a hard-fought game. Then Air Force at home, and also Memphis, the best group of 5 team from last year. That's a tough non-conference schedule.
Another thing I'm trying to figure out, too, in your opinion, how much better is IU going to be this year? Is there a team they can maybe contend, even though I don't think they'll win the Big Ten East, but can they contend for the Big Ten East this year?
Who did you just say? Indiana?
Yeah.
No, they're not going to contend for the Big Ten Eastern Division. They're not.
Do you think they'll be about the same as they was last year?
I think that their schedule, and I gave them a look last night as well, is going to make it difficult for them to get to 8-4. So they played a non-division schedule in the West last year that was very favorable with Purdue, Nebraska, and Northwestern.
I think it was yeah.
This year they've got Illinois, they got Purdue, but they also have Wisconsin in game 1. So it's a little bit tougher for them in the West. I think the one game that they could pick up that they typically lose is Michigan State. Michigan State's not going to be, I don't think, as good over the next 3 or 4 years as what we've seen in the last 7-8 years. So Indiana might be able to pass Michigan State on the totem pole in the Big Ten East.
Do you think I'm looking at their schedule right now. Do you think the Penn State game's a winnable game for them?
Well, most people would consider that to be a no, but I consider it a toss-up. They only lost by a score in Happy Valley last year, and 2 years ago, they should have won that game in Bloomington and lost by just a one-score game against Penn State. So that's winnable, and that would be huge for them, obviously.
Because then they get a couple wins, if I'm not mistaken. Then they pull off a couple wins that they weren't expected to win last year in the Big Ten East.
No, they lost all the big boys in the Big Ten East. They lost to Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, and Michigan State. Those were their 4 losses.
But were they, with the exception, I think, of the, I think it's either, I know they got whacked against Ohio State, maybe Michigan, but those 3, was it Michigan, Penn State, Michigan State competitive going into like the 4th quarter?
Oh, absolutely. The Michigan State game, they threw for like 400 yards and really gave their defense fits at Michigan State. They lost that one 40-31, but it was closer than the score would indicate. It was actually like a 33-31 game, and then Michigan State tacked on a late touchdown. And the game at Penn State was winnable. They lost 34-27, but that was a really good game. I remember watching that game. Yeah, Michigan beat them more decidedly than I expected. I thought that they would give Michigan a really good game, as they typically do, especially at home. They've played Michigan really tough since Harbaugh's been there, but they lost by 25 points in the Ohio State game. They usually play Ohio State really tough, but they just got murdered.
Yeah. Yep. So you're thinking they're going to be about a 7-win team this year?
Yeah, I'm looking at 7 and 5.
All right. I can't wait to see these previews. Thanks so much, Mark.
Thanks a lot, Michael. Appreciate the call.
Okay, take care.
It's our guy Michael Hogue there, talking some college football with us, breaking down the schedules in the Big Ten. Gotta love that, huh? All right. Snake Spencer's on the line. Rubber Nose wanted me to hang up. Yes, I probably should have. I'm too nice a guy, aren't I? Too nice a guy sometimes. Got Nate on the line. Always good to hear from him. If anybody I haven't acknowledged, I apologize. Matt's made some nice comments tonight. And I got to tell you, Matt, I might have missed you at some point, but I've never seen your handle either on the live streams, in the live chat room, or in the comment section of any of the videos, so you know what this means. Welcome to Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Matt, would love to know who you root for and how long you've been watching here at the voice of college football. I am going through the comment section right now, and unfortunately I'm right in the thick of the coronavirus discussion. So many of you commenting on that. I'm trying to make my way through. Matt thinks A&M is overrated. All that money invested in Jimbo Fisher and all those highly rated recruiting classes have to come to roost at some point. So Texas A&M needs to start breaking through. Consider Jimbo Fisher only had 2 seasons there. It's only been 2, and the first season was a big upgrade over what they were the previous season. Then they disappointed many of us, including myself, this past year. Not that I expected them to beat Alabama and Clemson and Georgia, but they didn't really compete in any of those games. They didn't get embarrassed except by LSU 50-7. That should not happen. I know LSU was lights out this year, but still 50-7. They were not prepared for that game, obviously. So again, if we look at this, and we got 28-AD-28 on the line talking Big 12. Baylor was 4 games better in 2019. And again, I'm looking at regular season. So some people are throwing out, for example, Alabama won 14 games in 2018. They only won 11 games last year. Well, they played a lot more games because they went to an SEC championship game. Plus, they played in 2 college football playoff games. Regular season 3-game difference. That's what we're looking for. And what we've got with Baylor, even though 28-80-28 was looking at the final numbers, Baylor went from 6-6 to 11-1. Kansas State, yeah. So 28-80-28 is doing my homework for me, but I was going to point those out as well. Kansas State was 3 games better, going from 5-7 to 8-5. In West Virginia, they dropped off without Will Greer and all those receivers and their left tackle left. And they went from 9-3 regular season to 5-7. There was one other team, I think, in the Big 12. Maybe not. Maybe it was just those 3 that. Hey. Somebody might need to call back. I'm sorry. I was trying to put you on speaker and it's not letting me. Call me right back. I screwed that up. All right. Let's look at the Pac-12. So we've got our 5 teams in the ACC, 5 teams in the Big 10, 3 teams, as 80-28 AD just pointed out, in the Big 12, either increased or decreased by at least 3 games from 2018 to 2019, because we're looking for those teams. If you've just joined us on the line, we've got 40 on the line right now. We're looking for those teams that are at least going to increase or decrease their win total by at least 3 from 2019 to 2020, because they seem, this is at least my slant on college football, it feels like everybody stays the same. That's the way it feels. Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, Georgia right here, Oklahoma, Michigan, Penn State, Wisconsin right here, Florida. They're all going to stay about the same. And then as you go down the line, then you got your next tier, and they're going to stay. Utah and so forth and so on are going to stay right there. And it just seems like teams don't change year to year. Well, it's pretty much the elite, great teams don't change. Did I screw this up again? Hello, Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line? I got to get you on speaker. Here we go.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I got you. Is this George?
All right, it's George in Portland.
Absolutely, it is.
I was just thinking about the national championship this year. I'm going to make my way early prediction.
Oh, can I guess? Can I guess first, George? Let me guess what your prediction is going to be.
Yeah. Yes.
It's going to be, could it be a team from Florida, from the state of Florida, possibly?
There might be one of those teams in
All
there,
right.
yeah.
It's going to be the Gators, and they are going to play. I want to say you're going to pull the trigger on Ohio State.
Right, because they have Ryan Day, the next Nick Saban.
That's your prediction for this year. Ohio State and Florida.
Yeah.
Okay.
And God bless Ryan Day. He's a good guy, but I think it'll be 27-27 with minutes to go in the game. Ohio State will take the field goal thinking, whatever, and Florida will get a touchdown, so it'll end up like 34-30 or 33-30 or something. Florida wins. Dan
Mullen wins the national championship in 2020.
Yep. Just like fucking, if that dumbass in Louisiana did it, we can do it. I'm sorry. I love that guy.
You love him. You just called him a dumbass, but you love him.
No, listen, I'm just joking with LSU fans, but I've never lived in 1 year of my life when LSU wasn't just like the Gators. They just are. And then we have Alabama, too, and Georgia, and even Tennessee and Kentucky. It just keeps going. I love the SEC. Oh, my God. We have all the good teams.
Well, you don't have all of them. You just said somebody else is going to come within a field goal of winning the national championship.
That's because I think you got lucky. I think Ryan Day is an administrator. I think he's just like that. I think he's like Urban Meyer was or something. Dan Mullen hung out with Urban Meyer. Urban Meyer's like Merlin the Magician.
Yeah, pretty much. He had a great run.
It has to do with being a corporate president and structuring a program. Nick Saban's a master at this. You know, like you get it all in there. We got nutrition. We have strength and conditioning. We have ex-NFL guys breaking down film with you. You know, it's like a corporation. And I think Ryan Day he's been doing that for years and years and years with Urban Meyer. I mean, Jesus God, you saw last season. That was miraculous what Ohio State did last season. Miraculous.
I don't know if it was miraculous. It
was a smooth transition.
Yes, it was a smooth transition. Absolutely. It was remarkable. Remarkable. I shouldn't. Well, I'm starting to use your terminology. It was pretty much what we all expected Ohio State would do. Not necessarily go undefeated, but that was no great surprise.
My God, you guys got to be building some records or something like what you've done in the last 10 seasons. There got to be some records involved here.
Well, Urban Meyer won 91% of his games, so that's he and Saban are pretty much in front of everyone else when it came to that, just winning percentage. I'm just catching up, George, to your post, and I just brought it onto the screen here, where you said, every time I hear that song by Ted Nugent called Stranglehold, I think about Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, because there's only one.
Right, you have a stranglehold on the whole fucking college football thing. Yes. You're the only normal guy doing college football.
George, I can count on you to put a different slant or perspective on it.
Yeah, listen to that song, man. That's a rocking song.
I'll give it a listen, just for you.
All right, listen, guys.
Yep.
Listen to me. If they lock you down and they tell you can't go nowhere, I want everybody to go out and meet the tanks and the National Guard soldiers. Bring them a turkey sandwich or something, right? And if they shoot you with microwave weapons until you run back to your house, now you know you're getting the help you need. So figure it out. I've never been a slave before. You know, I'm 60 years old. No one tells me what to do. And you're telling me because I'm healthy, I might be sick. I'm like, come on. Did the TV just come out of the TV and we're in Roger Rabbit land? Is this Last Action Hero or what? What's going on?
Yeah, it's crazy. Crazy.
The boogeyman in Last Action Hero came into the real world and got us. I mean, look, if you elect me president, I can fix this shit in 3 days. I promise.
3 days.
I'll get rid of the coronavirus, fire everybody involved. I'm just saying, come on. Listen, Mark, there's a rule of thumb in life, right? You never believe anything you see on TV, and you never believe a politician. And I don't know what happened in the last 10 days, but all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, politicians don't lie and the TV don't lie. If it's on TV, it must be true. Danger, Will Robbins, danger.
Right, George.
What the hell is going on? Whatever. I don't know anybody is sick or anyone knows anyone's sick times 10. Like out to my 10th family member and best friend.
Well, I will say that. And I hope that's more the truth.
Healthy people.
I hope that's.
People might be carriers.
And you're in one of the prime states for this too.
Man, I love myself so much. I bought this shit called elderberry. It has to have the flower and the berry, and it was only $8 a jar. And I gave it to some of my neighbors. You know how happy that makes it because it made them feel better. You know. Like, and I know there's no thing, but I'm like, here. And they're like, really? And I'm like, yeah, here.
I am shocked that our online counter is not plummeting right now. Because at this point, George, I got to tell you, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Listen, you need to go and tell these people that you're okay and you're perfectly fine. Like, you don't need your nose swab. You don't need no one to tell you what time it is. I don't want you to tell me if I need to go in line A or line B. Everything's fine. Relax. You know, because it's just a TV show. Are you serious? I mean, I can't believe I'm 60 years old, Mark. I feel like a 16-year-old kid. I want everybody out there to know when you're 60 years old, it's just like being 16. I've never been sick in my life.
Good
I
for
could
you.
go climb Mount Everest.
That is good to hear, George. I am glad that you are in great condition.
But I never do anything the medical community says. I just do my own thing. I use all natural stuff. Just talk to any old person at a health food store.
Well, I will say that I have never had a flu shot, and that has served me very well. I have never had the flu in my life.
Yeah. You know, I have one of those kids, actually more than one. You know, I never did the shots, but my ex-wives insisted on it, and the ones they did it to suffered. And my family is famous, you know, like everybody knows who's vaccine injured. It's horrible. It's like God messed up. He forgot to give you your vaccination. Like, what are we talking about? This is
What are we
ridiculous.
talking about here? George, we're going to get back to some college football talk. We've got some folks on the line.
All right,
that,
hey, listen, Mark.
yes.
I try to be very subtle about shit, but I never want to drop Alabama out of this conversation. I mentioned Florida and I mentioned Ohio State, but Alabama is a total juggernaut.
Thanks for the update, George. We appreciate it.
All right, buddy. I love you guys.
Thanks, George. We have George here to utterly confuse us and then tell us at the end of the conversation that Alabama's a juggernaut. All right, Matt, thank you so much for the call on Minnesota and Northwestern. So Matt answering the question that we posed at the beginning of the night, which is what college football teams are going to increase or decrease by at least 3 wins in 2020. Because as I pointed out, we had 5 teams in the ACC, 5 teams in the Big Ten. We've counted now 3 teams in the Big 12 that either increased or decreased their win totals by 3 games. That is significant. They only played 12 games. 3 games in 2019 from what we saw in 2018. And so Matt has Minnesota.
The call will start at the beep.
Matt has Minnesota decreasing from 10-2 to at least 7-5, and Northwestern upping their game from 3-9 to at least 6-6. MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
How's it going, Mark? My name's Grant.
Hey, Grant. How are you? Did I get that right?
Yeah, you got it right. I'm good. How about yourself?
I'm good. How long you been watching us? I'm just curious.
You know, I'm kind of more new to the show, actually.
All right. That's good to hear. Appreciate that. Who do you root for?
I'm an Ohio State Buckeye here.
All right. We've got a lot of Ohio State talk on here, so we hope you like it.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I was kind of getting your theory on how you think the team's going to be this coming year.
The Buckeyes for 2020?
Yeah, I'm a little nervous about the running back situation and kind of tossing and turning. People thinking that we're going to get Trey Sermon. I'm not too sure about that yet. I think it's too early.
Well, as soon as you said how the Buckeyes are going to do in 2020, that was the first position that came to mind. I am not impressed with the running back position based on what I've seen and based on what the standards are. I'm not saying that these guys don't have talent and they're not decent players, but we're talking about a team that is dominant in the Big Ten and wants to go to a college football playoff again. So we're talking about replacing, and you know how well, I don't need to elaborate on how great J.K. Dobbins was this past year. To see him go from a back in 2018 that was a really good back, of course. He had the big 2017, and then in 2018 he kind of lost a gear. But you remember the Maryland game at the end of 2017. So when he needed to carry the team, he still was capable of. But to see him really dedicate himself and go from being a really good back, being like a top 20 back in the nation, to being arguably the best back in the nation was pretty remarkable. So for them to replace him is obviously a heavy lift, and they probably won't replace him. But they need to play at a high level at that position. And I don't see it out of Master Teague. I think they'll be fine, but I just see another back in the backfield when I see Master Teague, based on what I saw last season. So yeah, I'm concerned about the running back position.
Yeah, I think Master Teague's a good back. I think he showed flashes, but in garbage time, not as much as, when Donovan went down injured.
Exactly.
In the Clemson game, I think Teague, the drop-off was shown big time.
Absolutely.
And if it wasn't for that, if it wasn't for the Dobbins injury, I think we would have won that game. But, that's biased. That's coming from an Ohio State fan. But I think our offensive line is going to be terrific again this year. It's just, I think if we want to do ultimately what we want to do, the ultimate goal of winning a title, I think getting Trey Sermon that goal right now.
Yeah, I can see that. I also think that even though the secondary is always elite and produces as well as anybody in the country, you can argue that Ohio State's produced the best defensive backs in the country for the past 5 years, if not the past 15 to 20. I think there are some depth concerns in the secondary. The defensive line's great. The linebacking crew was much better in 2019 than in 2017 and 18, but still not as good as you would want. So those would be the biggest concerns for me, would be a top-flight running back, linebacking play still being good, but not as good as it should be, and depth in the secondary. Can't afford many secondary injuries.
Well, and unfortunately, with what happened with Amir Reef and Nelson Wynn, I think Reef was about to be a starter this coming year, and those were two big hits because that ruined depth. And I still don't put it past Ohio State not to bring in a transfer if one pops up. But yeah, I think there's more than just the running back question mark this coming year. I would say the secondary is one of them. Sean Wade, obviously, I think is going to be an All-American.
But the thing we need to keep in mind is that those are minor details and issues with this team. When you look at every other team in the country, albeit except Alabama and Clemson, that have those kind of concerns, those minute concerns, teams have question marks. Of course, the churn on a college football roster is huge, so everybody loses players, and for most teams, there are major concerns.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing is I know Ryan Day is only going into his second year as the head coach, but I trust C.J. Stroud or, Jack Miller, whichever one ends up becoming the quarterback. But, when you've got a player as talented as Justin Fields, I think this is the window you got to capitalize.
Absolutely. And you mentioned the J.K. Dobbins injury against Clemson. The other unfortunate aspect of Ohio State's season late, and then it came to roost against Clemson, was for as well as Justin Fields played, we didn't see Justin Fields at 100% or anything close to it. The whole component of him as a runner and a threat as a dynamic runner was taken away once he got hurt against, Wisconsin? Was when he first got hurt. And then by the end, when you look at the way Ohio State had to run its offense against Clemson in the second half with no J.K. Dobbins and Justin Fields not being a factor as a runner, they basically became a drop-back passing team.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I don't think I think in the 2020, 2021, Ohio State's going to be a lot more fortunate at receiver than what they have been. I don't think these guys were capable of doing what the guys we have coming are.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
But yeah, I don't look at the Clemson Ohio State game as, yeah, there were a bunch of bad penalties called. I mean, that's fair to say, but at the same time, biased again. I look at if Dobbins wouldn't have gotten hurt, I think that's a bigger point. Because we were kind of running all over him before that.
Yeah, I was, if you would have been watching me right after the college football playoffs, Grant, you would have heard I just got buried because, you know, I'm on here to give my opinion, and it's got to be based on fact and logic and reason, and we try to provide smart talk here. That's what we sell ourselves on. But I'm not going to apologize for letting people know, yes, Clemson won the game, but it's reasonable to watch that game and say the best team didn't necessarily win the game. There is no question that that's a reasonable analysis to make after watching that game, that even if you believe that the officials made the correct call on all those controversial calls, whether it be the roughing the punter, the targeting, the strip, that could have been called a fumble for a touchdown for the Ohio State defense. Even if you say the officials made the right call on all those plays, those are still just game-changing plays that all were called in Clemson's favor.
Exactly. And again, I think you know, the cream rose to the top. I think Trevor Lawrence is one of the greatest quarterbacks, frankly, I've watched in my 21 years of watching college football. The kid's a winner. I think after Sean Wade hit him, and I do think that was targeting. I think Sean Wade lowered his helmet, and I think it's questionable, but I think it was targeting. I think there was just a different mindset from Trevor Lawrence after that. I think he was hungrier and wanted that game. Because before that targeting happened, Clemson was dead in the water.
Yeah, when you're down 16-0, and that would have obviously been a play. It was a 3rd and 16 that would have given the ball back to Ohio State with 4 minutes left in the half. Most likely, we're looking at either Ohio State puts more points on the board and leads more than 16-0, or they just trade a couple punts and they get to the half and it's 16-0 or it's 16-3, or at the very worst, it's 16-7.
Exactly. Well, I don't necessarily think that Ryan Day managed it as well as he could have. I think he did a good job, but I don't, you know, you're not going to beat Clemson settling for field goals.
Absolutely.
And, unfortunately, Dobbins was tripped up at, I believe it was the 7 or 8 yard line. He wasn't able to get in. And then we had the one touchdown where you got to survive the ground, and that's fair. But, you know, it should have been 28-0, and there's really no excuses for that. At least 24-0. It's you got too good of a team on the other side of the field. Just expect 16-0 is good enough.
I hear you, Grant. I appreciate the phone call. You got anything else for me?
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Grant. Take care.
Yep, you too. Appreciate it.
Got a new caller on the line there, Grant, Ohio State fan. Hopefully he will stick around. I am checking out the comments in the live chat. I'm going to go through one more conference here because we're trying to find those teams that are going to at least increase or decrease their win total by 3 games in 2020. And again, this may not be a big deal to you, but I just seem to think it's interesting because I think college football remains stagnant more than any other sport in regards to the good teams and the bad teams. The good teams, the great teams are always the great teams, And the decent teams, or the next, I shouldn't say decent, really good teams like Michigan, Notre Dame, Penn State are always there and have been recently at least, and on down the line. The tiers seem to stay the same, but what I'm pointing out here kind of goes against that, because about a third of every conference either increases or decreases significantly from the season before. So in the Pac-12, let's see what we've got from last season going back to 2018 in the comparison. Oregon State, hardly anybody noticed this because Oregon State's Oregon State. They only won one game in 2018. They upped that to 5-7 last year. 4-game improvement for Jonathan Smith and Oregon State. Washington State went from 10-2 to 6-6 in Mike Leach's last season at Washington State. 10-2 to 6-6. They're another team. Stanford, I believe, went 8-4. They might have been 9-3. No, I think they were 8-4 in 2018. They went all the way down to 4-8. I'm going to be interested to see if David Shaw really can get his mojo back and get this Stanford program on the right track, because Stanford's been really good since Harbaugh built that program in 2007 and 8. They've been a top 10 program in college football. Now suddenly they leveled off. They became an 8-4 team for a few years, and now, man, 4-8. They were just awful last year. So they went from 8-4 to 4-8. So that's two teams in the Pac-12. Utah went 11-1. Trying to think what their record was the year before. They were probably 8-4, 9-3, something like that. USC went from 5-7 to 8-4. So there's three teams in the Pac-12. USC going from 5 wins to 8. And that's pretty much it. Everybody else stayed about the same. So 3 teams in the Pac-12. 3 teams in the Pac-12, 5 in the ACC, 5 in the Big Ten, 3 in the Big 12. In the SEC, Georgia, Florida, Tennessee went from, they were what, 5-7 to 7-5, so not quite. Kentucky, Mizzou, South Carolina, nope. They were 7-5. They went to 4-8, 7-5 to 4-8. South Carolina, that's our one team in the SEC, decreased 3 wins. Now Will Muschamp probably on the hot seat, 7-5 to 4-8. LSU went from 9-3 to 12-0. 2 teams that had a 3-game difference. Mississippi State, nope. Ole Miss, Arkansas were both awful. So only 2 teams in the SEC had a 3-game difference from 2018 to 19. Again, that was South Carolina going from 7-5 to 4-8. And LSU from 9-3 to 12-0. Appreciate you guys stopping by. That was my big question of the night. Want to let you know again that starting this week, I have pledged myself to do a live stream every Sunday night. Every Sunday night from, man, I've lost my train of thought now. I'm receiving too many text messages that are distracting me. 10 o'clock Eastern time every Sunday night, noon Eastern time every Friday, because what really built this channel and when we experienced our best growth, our biggest growth, was when we did live streams on a regular basis, and I've gotten away from that since the college football season ended. And we actually, unbelievably, have our most people on here right now at, oh my word, 2 o'clock in the morning. We are up to 50 people online. So thank you so much for that. I'm going to sign off as soon as I check out the rest of the comments, I want to make sure that I don't miss anything. Kyle, thanks for letting everybody know. 39 watching, 39 likes. But Kyle, that doesn't make any sense. Stay with me here. Just because we've got 39 watching and now it's 47 and 39 likes, that doesn't mean everybody has liked it. Because we've had about 200 people go through the live stream. So not everybody is... Not everybody is pressing the like button. I screwed that up. My phone. Yeah, call back. I've got to hit it just right. So I've got to, yeah, I won't explain it. It's 2 o'clock in the morning, folks. Michael, what you got for us? I have to ask you, Todd. He's asking Todd. He's not asking me. You guys talk amongst yourselves. Ryan, your standard, I appreciate your standard is awfully low. Great show. Really? Where have I been for the last 2 hours? I missed the great show. Where was that? Yes, Michael, it's an iPhone. And if I hit the keypad to take it to the keypad where I can select the one, if I do that before I put it on speaker, then I get the keypad and I can't go back to put it on speaker. That's the problem. So I apologize if I don't get that in order. Then I've got the key. Okay, let's see if I can do it. Bam. We're going to hit speaker. Bam. Then the keypad.
The call will start at
There we go. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Edward.
Edward. How's it going tonight?
Yes. How you doing?
I'm doing
great.
great.
So I was interested. I went back and watched on the DVR that Ohio State Clemson game.
Okay.
And people might be getting tired of talking about it, but I just kind of went back and watched. And clearly Ohio State was the better team, athletically and just about in every way. What I'm wondering is, what do you think would have happened if Ohio State had played that powerhouse LSU in the national championship?
Oh, boy. All right, sir. So I'm sorry, I forgot your name.
Edward.
Edward. I want to be able to call you by your name. Edward, again, thanks for calling. This is the first time I've remember you calling in. So where were you? I needed you a couple months ago after this Ohio State Clemson game because that was my analysis. I never argued that, hey, Clemson won this game. I don't think that they necessarily ripped off Ohio State or anything like that. But I just pointed out that all the game-changing calls made in that game went Clemson's way. That's all I pointed out. And people just murdered me as a homer and crybaby and all those things. And I was merely pointing out that it was not unreasonable to say, if you watched that game, that Ohio State was the better team. And I didn't back off that opinion. The best team doesn't always win the game. It doesn't always happen.
Clearly in that case.
Ohio State
no doubt.
dominated, and I will say this, through many points of the game, they dominated the line of scrimmage. They were definitely the better team on both sides of the line of scrimmage up front. They just made more mistakes. They made 3 or 4 mistakes, and the officials made questionable calls. I'm not going to say the wrong call, but calls that could have been made either way, and they all went against Ohio State. It's not like the targeting went Ohio State's way, but the roughing the penalty kicker went Clemson's way, and the strip for the touchdown recovery and the fumble went Ohio State's way, and then this other call went, no, they all went Clemson's way. All the calls went Clemson's way. They just did.
Correct. What I was amazed is that some of the athleticism of Ohio State. First of all, I'm a Georgia fan.
Okay.
But in just going and watching that game, though, on the DVR, you can really just, I don't know, it's
different from. Anyways, other than someone's opinion, because I'm unbiased, I'm not an Ohio State fan. But just watching the athleticism and that one guy jumping like 9 feet in the air and catching an impossible pass, just the things that athletically they could do, they were just a better team.
So let's point out on the targeting play what the situation in the game was. Ohio State's up 16-0. There's only 4 minutes left in the half. The play that created the targeting, okay, the targeting did not stop Clemson. Clemson threw an incomplete pass because even if the targeting call was correct, Trevor Lawrence could not complete the pass because he was being rushed and the defender, Sean Wade, was right in his face. So Ohio State stopped Clemson. It was 4th and 16. And most likely, when you're receiving a punt on 4th and 16 and going to get the ball back and you're up 16-0 with only 4 minutes left in the half, the very worst that could have happened was that Ohio State was going to punt the ball back to Clemson, and Clemson was going to score and make it 16-3 or 16-7. So
Okay.
Clemson didn't make a play to get the ball back. The official called targeting and gave the ball back to Clemson, and they converted a first down based on the targeting play. They didn't convert the first down themselves. So it wasn't a play that Clemson made that got them back in the ball game. It was even if you consider it a dumb play by Ohio State, the targeting, and even if it was correctly called, it wasn't anything Clemson did to get back in the game. That's just like the roughing the punter play. Even if that was the correct call, it was a bad play that Ohio State made. It was not a good play that Clemson made. It was not because they were Clemson. That could have been Purdue punting the ball and getting a roughing the punter penalty called for them to keep possession of the ball, if you follow me there.
Sure. Well, here's kind of what I was asking your opinion on, and I certainly know my opinion. If Ohio State had played LSU in the national championship, would it have been a much better national championship?
Well, I definitely think it would have been a much better game, yes. I don't think Clemson or LSU would have beaten Ohio State by 17 points, I don't think. I think it would have been a more competitive game. Yep.
Yeah, I think it would have been more exciting, and I could almost say it'd be a coin toss in my opinion. But LSU probably would have won it, but I think it would have been a very close game.
The one aspect of that game that would have favored LSU is that Justin Fields was not prepared physically to play another game, just in regards to anybody who watched Ohio State play throughout the season. And you as a Georgia fan know Justin Fields, not that you got to see him play every down, every play as the starting quarterback, but you know what an elite talent he is. And his play was compromised late in the season when he hurt his knee. And so he played with that big bulky brace on his knee, and it just completely changed his game. And Clemson did not see the Justin Fields that other teams saw throughout the season. They saw a kid that couldn't run and provide that threat against them, and he became a pocket passer. So LSU would not have seen the Justin Fields at 100% or close to 100% either.
Yeah, I didn't think about that, but okay, yeah, that makes sense. It is what it is. I can't wait. I'm just cooped up in the house and ready for some college football.
Absolutely. And hopefully we get through this deal that everybody's having to deal with right now. And it's just an inconvenience for all of us. Let me correct myself, an inconvenience for most of us. And for those people that have contracted it, I feel horrible. For those people that have been affected physically in terms of health, and feel on another level horrible for those people that have been affected. And this may hit a number of us at some point financially. in terms of losing jobs or losing hours that they typically get paid. People have gotten hit in regards to all sorts of business angles in the stock market and everything else. And I'm not talking about people with millions of dollars in the stock market that can afford to lose it, but people that, have certain investments. So this has hurt all of us to some degree, but I feel horrible for those people that have really been hit by this, either physically or financially. But hopefully we get through this, and hopefully we can talk college football and actually see some games on the field in September.
Yeah, I can't wait. Just can't wait. But hey, I appreciate you taking my call.
Absolutely, Edward. We appreciate you calling in, and hopefully you find some quality content on our channel, and you stick around.
Yeah, I support you on Patreon, and anybody who's listening, it's only $5 a month, and I know it helps out.
Edward, well, let me stop you right there before I let you go. So thank you so much, because I have to admit to everybody on here, and I did this the other night, that if you go on Patreon right now and support me, I am going to be very honest with everyone, just because of the limitations of the amount of content that I do here and a full-time job and everything else. I'm not really supplying anything else on Patreon. So I thank you and everybody else that's supporting me on Patreon, because you're basically doing it on blind faith, was basically just saying, hey, Mark, we appreciate what you do on YouTube, and we're just going to support you. So I thank you so much for that. But we are going to get to a point where we are going to give added value there on Patreon. And I hope people know that do support me on Patreon, that there is, I communicate this from time to time, there is an opportunity to request an exclusive live stream. And I will pull through on that and have 7 or 8 times where people have requested an exclusive live stream on Patreon. So that is available to you, Edward, and anybody else that supports us on Patreon. But thank you so much.
Okay. Yeah, I just do it because I think it might help out a little bit. So,
it certainly does. It helps out a whole bunch.
It's the only way that I can say thank you, So, but well, I guess there's different ways of saying thank you, but that's one of them.
Edward, this is the first time we've talked, and the first time that I've seen your name listed anywhere in the comments or otherwise. But thank you so much for supporting us on Patreon, and that is tremendous. Thank you.
All right, go Dogs.
It's certainly interesting, but it's also enlightening at times to hear some people that just kind of sit back and watch and just take it in and enjoy what we do, but don't necessarily make themselves known by commenting in the live chat or to any of the videos. But here's a guy that I started the conversation, or when he called, we got into the conversation as a Georgia fan, and I just figured this guy's he has no idea who I am, and he just kind of stumbled upon us, and he's calling in and talking, and boom, he supports us on Patreon. So Edward, thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. All right, it's been a long night, folks. What is this? What is that? A Georgia fan. Okay, we got more Georgia fans in the house. Interesting. I hope I did. Whoa, Ryan. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Great show. Go Dogs. Ryan, thank you so much. Ryan, I got to say, you have been commenting a lot recently, but it's only been for the last few days or maybe the last week that I've noticed your handle in any of the comments. So thank you so much for your contribution and joining us here at the Voice of College Football. Folks, I hope you go out there and just let people know that we're here, and people have a lot more serious things to deal with and worry about right now, and hopefully nobody's out there worrying. So this is going to be my little speech for the night, is going to be, place your faith where it should be placed. Do not worry about this situation. Be smart, be wise, but don't panic. Don't be paranoid. Do the safe things, do the smart things, and we will get through this, but place your faith where it needs to be placed. For me, my faith is placed in God, And I will leave it at that. But please be safe, be wise, and do all the right things that you need to do. And thank you so much. If you left a comment anywhere in this live chat and you want me to respond to the comment, please copy and paste it and just leave it in the comments section of any of the videos, and I will get to it. Right here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. We will see you soon. $10 Eastern time, Ryan, on a Sunday night. That's Sunday at 10 o'clock Eastern time. We will see you soon.